We're wacko for Kako as the Baby Bombers Brigade have another strong pre-season hit out. This is the Sash, definitely not the official podcast of the Essendon Football Club. I'm your host, Rob, here with you for a Wednesday night review of another pre-season fixture. And joining me on satellite is Ryan. Hello, mate.
G'day, Rob. How's things going?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. First pod for you for 2025. How are you feeling?
Yeah, feeling strangely optimistic after last night, which is a dangerous place to be. But no, really, I'm really excited to be back, and I'm looking forward to what's to come this season.
Yes, well said. I think I went through the full array of emotions of it was a flag in the first quarter. It was never going to win a game some point through the second, and then I was back to flag by the end of the game. But look, it was a fun night, and it was nice to not be too invested. Although I'm sure we all would have loved it to have actually been a real win down in Geelong, but. All in all, just a great night. I think we got through unscathed. A lot of really good signs, and there's not much more you could take out of a pre-season game than that, I think.
Yeah, look, it was just so solid. It was the first note that I wrote about it when I was watching last night was just, this is just a solid performance. You know, there was the usual sort of, there was a couple of moments of ugliness, some poor kicks here and there, but overall it was just solid. It was I wasn't expecting us to look as clean. Probably Geelong maybe wasn't paying as much attention as we were. It seemed to mean a little bit more to our young guys, but yeah, it was surprisingly good. It was just so nice to see us perform well.
Yeah, well said. Now, before we jump into our preview, bit of housekeeping to go through, because next week the real thing starts, which means that we've got pods. We've got lots of pods. We've got lots of stuff on YouTube, all coming next week. So I'm just going to read you off the list of what I've got here, Ryan, because it's pretty good. So Sunday night, or Monday morning, depending on when you'll listen or view stuff, it'll be released Sunday night. So we've got the season preview with journalist guests. So I've got a couple of great journalists who everyone will be quite familiar with for their work and supporting the Essendon Football Club. So they'll be joining me for a preview. Monday night, the official Sash season preview. And don't worry, Mert will be there in the studio, so he'll be red hot, coming for a big run-up, I'm sure. I can't imagine what he's been cooking up over summer. Tuesday night, we've got another season preview with the friends of the pod, so some of the other great Essendon content creators who are out there. I'm sure the faithful are familiar with some of them. They'll be joining us. Wednesday night, Jesse's doing an opposition preview episode with someone who runs a Gold Coast Suns podcast, Ryan. Can you believe it exists?
This is exciting news. I mean, this is really what the AFL was hoping for, not only to expand the game, but to get podcasts based on the Suns. Yeah. When you say that out loud, it still doesn't sound quite true, does it?
I know, it doesn't. And the thing that gets me the most is when I was having a laugh with someone a week or so ago, and we were talking about a Gold Coast Suns podcast, and I said, surely you call it the Sun Lounge. That's what you call the pod. Unfortunately, it's not called that. So I'm going to say to Jesse, can he just say to these fellas, hey guys, I know you've already got another name, but have you considered changing your podcast and calling it the Sun Lounge? Because I think that's the perfect name for a Suns podcast. And lastly, while we're talking Suns, Thursday night, the premium preview show, the official preview of the Gold Coast game. We'll go through the teams. We'll talk about Gold Coast. That's available there for our premium listeners as well. If you are a premium listener, of course, you'll get all of those shows plus many more ad-free throughout the year. Lastly, it's not next week, but it's going to be coming the week after. We've got another show which is going to be happening every single week. We're doing a mailbag show. So you'll find the email address in the show description and also on all the links on our social media page. But Jolie's going to be running that throughout the year. Maybe you've got a question about a player. Maybe you've got a question about something from the past. Maybe you just have some, issues with your love life and you want to ask Joel or myself or any other boys who are on the mailbag what they think about that. So that's going to be a bit of fun every single week that we'll be doing. That'll be available immediately after it's recorded on the premium feed. And then, I don't know, I'll probably pick a day midweek, maybe a Wednesday or a Friday or something, for that to be coming out on the main feed. But heaps of shows, Ryan. There is that much content coming.
This is huge. This is as big a way you can start the 2025 Essendon season. This is just as much content as you could possibly want. This mailbag is just going to be the best thing I think you've ever done. It's I just can't fathom what Joel's going to get out of it every week. But how good is it? We're going to have so much opportunity, for people to be able to get in touch with the show and to chat about Essendon and as you said, potentially things beyond Essendon. Maybe we can do. I think there's a chance we might be able to create an Essendon dating app. I mean, surely you want to keep the fandom together.
Yeah.
Sure.
Love Dons. It'll just be called Love Dons. Love Dons dating. Trademark. I've just trademarked that, everyone, so you can't steal it. Love Dons. We'll get it going. Speaking of loving Dons, this is a quick plug. Now, we're an international show. We often get a lot of voice notes from people from around the globe, and we do love Essendon supporters who aren't here in Melbourne or even in Australia, but we do have a big contingent of London-based supporters. Now, I got a fantastic email from a gentleman called Hamish the other day, and I just want to plug an event that he's putting on for anyone who is in London and goes for the Dons. So the Londons, great name, the Londons, on Friday the 14th of March, they're going to be at the balcony room at the Swan and Globe, which is in London, SE1 9DT, and they're going to be watching the round 1 game against Hawthorn live. I think it starts at like 9 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning or something. There's like a full breakfast. There's room. There's a whole bunch of different stuff. But yeah, it's a proper event. There's an event page. So if you're interested in your London-based, DM the page and I'll flick you a link to the event. Because it looks like it's going to be a cracking one. If you're in London and you want to hang out and drink some pints at 8 o'clock in the morning, then this is the place to be.
I love the Londons. It was there. How did we not see it all these years? It's as good as it's ever going to get. Londons. I love that. Now that sounds like a great opportunity. I wish I was there to do that because 9 a.m. brews sound pretty good right now.
Yes, yeah, they certainly do. So yeah, look, that'll be a great one there. Hamish said it's dress code is red and black, obviously, so that's a great one there. For anyone listening in London, I'll whack that up on the social media page, I'm sure, just a bit closer to the day. But if you are London-based or even European-based and you feel like just flying over from Paris to London just to watch the Bombers, then do that. Don't keep your trip. Send us the photos. We'd love to hear about it. Ryan, let's get into it. People are here to hear us talk about yesterday's practice match, the official practice match. What makes it official compared to the ones against the Dogs? I will never know. I don't think anyone ever will. But this is the official practice match. We spoke about it before that it was good signs, but let's just launch into some players. There's a long list of them to pick from. Who would you like to talk about first, Ryan? I'll give you the new ball.
Look, I think it'd be really remiss of us to, in a game which was Geelong versus Isaac Kako, not to start with Isaac Kako. It's impossible to go past him. I mean, the media's already, he's already won the Rising Star, according to the media. But quite frankly, last night he looked as good as you could have hoped he looked. He looked just from the first moment you saw him, he looked hungry. And I mean, I'm sure you expect that of a guy who's just starting his first season at the club. But that sort of hunger and determination that he showed was just really exciting. And one of the things that I loved, and it kind of shows my age, because I think we've as fans of Essendon, we've been so bereft of having true small forwards. And obviously Anthony McDonald, Tip and Woody was fantastic, but obviously being a mature age player, we didn't get the entirety of what he could have been. Kako's ability to just read the ball so cleanly and so quickly, it really did remind you, and a lot of older listeners would understand, the Darren Buicks of the world. Guys that just were there, Johnny on the spot. And and again, I don't necessarily want to knock anyone, but having gotten excited about guys like potentially Alwyn Davey Jr. And the like over the last couple of years, to have a guy like Kako rock up and just go bang, and just really stamp that he's going to be a round one player. And it's bloody thrilling. I mean, 4 goals, nearly should have been 5. He just looks dangerous, and I love that about him. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, the goal number 4, just that front and centre pickup, was the one that for me was really exciting, because it's just pure small forward play, just being in the right spot. Draper obviously did incredibly well to bring it to ground, and then he slots it. But even I think it was the first one where he was sort of off a step, had a bit of pressure, and he just got on the boot, and he just knew where the goals were. you spoke there about McDonald, Tip and Moody. There's just something about a red and black jumper with dreadlocks getting around the forward line that just gets me going. Just gets me going. So exciting for him. I don't want to give away too much of what one of the journalists said about him on the pods coming up, but he basically alluded to the fact that he reckoned he could have played 20 games last season. So he's clearly worth the hype so far. It's obviously great to see what he can actually do in the real thing. And look, we do have to temper expectations a bit because at the end of the day, it was still a practice match. But the thing we know from Geelong and the way they play, and the commentator spoke about it a little bit last night, is that they have a big back line. They've got a big back line of guys who intercept very well. They're very good at doing that. And you need Smalls to kick goals off the deck. And that's what Kako did. He took his opportunity. He looks just like a bundle of fun, and it's having those young guys who bring that energy that often will, lift guys around them. I can't remember which commentator spoke about it last night, but they were saying that, with him emerging, it might put a bit of a rocket under Jay Gresham, being like, oh, this little young kid's trying to overshadow me. I've got to, lift my game a little bit. The last thing I will say, though, is I loved how many different times Matt Hill pronounced the word Kako. I think we had Kako, Kako, Coco, Cacao. I think we got quite
a good one.
Kako. Yeah, we got a lot of variations there. So I love Matt Hill, but I did enjoy that.
Yeah, what you said there, I think really, really resonates is the fact that I think that sort of that quick reaction time when, as you said, that first goal, he got it, he saw goals, he snapped. And, one of the things that I've been dying for years is having a small forward that loved snapping the ball. Every time he got a snap off, it looked like it was going through, and, invariably it did. I also love, and this is some people, you say the word selfish, and I love a selfish small forward. I love a guy that's 30 out, and there's not even a hint that I think he's going to pass it off. He knows exactly what he wants to do, and he can do it. You made a good point. Obviously, it is only a practice game, and I always say that you've got to be you want to be careful getting too excited about wins in practice games. But I guarantee you, if we'd lost last night, we'd be pretty filthy, and we'd be nitpicking everything. So I think it's valid to be excited about a guy like Isaac Kako right now, and what he and his partner in crime, Nate Caddy, look like they might be able to do in the future. Not necessarily this year, regularly, but going on in the next couple of years. They look just so exciting. It's embarrassing that last night I did catch myself. I think I might have been the third goal. I wasn't invested. It was a practice game. And I just called myself going, he kicked a goal. And I went, you fucking beauty.
You weren't alone. The premium members Discord was certainly popping off during some of Kako's goals. We sort of spoke about it there before, but I just do want to reiterate, it's nice having a small forward with a real natural goal sense, because like someone who we've seen a bit of the last few years in Jai Menzies, who I think does a lot of other things quite well. Like he's a good pressure player. He really fights hard for one-on-one. I've just never felt that he just has that goal sense. And this is what you want small forwards for. You want a guy who might touch the ball 10 times, but potentially has 5 or 6 goal opportunities in those times. And just someone that if there's a throw in inside 50 or there's a high ball going in, people are worried. People are looking around going, where's this kid going to be? And it might be early on in the season that he gets given a bit of space because everyone's like, oh, he's a first-year player, don't worry about him. But there'll be a point, hopefully, for him where he has a few big games for premiership points and then suddenly starts to get a bit of attention, starts drawing the better defenders from opposition clubs. So, look, onwards and upwards for Isaac Kako, and fingers crossed it's a long and healthy year for him. We may as well speak about his partner in crime, Big Nate Dogg. I guess if Nate Caddy is Nate Dogg, does this make Isaac Kako Warren G and make it they're the regulators? I'm not sure. I don't know. It's a dated reference these days, that one. I didn't think it was possible for me to love Nate Caddy more than someone, but until I started hearing Jack Rewalt talking about him throughout the game, and it is like, maybe it was just the fact that like there is no pressure of a game, but I actually was really enjoying the commentary last night, just the relaxed feel of it all. And Jack Rewalt definitely had a lob on for Nate Caddy, and I was getting around that. I thought it was really entertaining listening to him be excited for an Essendon key forward for once.
I mean, yeah, Jack Revolt getting excited about a blonde forward it feels slightly like he's reliving his glory days. But look, one of the things that I thought was great about Nate Caddy, and I think we saw a glimpse of it last year, and I really think this year he could, touch wood, he stays fit, he could really do some exciting things, is that he looks like he makes the opposition nervous. Even there was a couple of times the ball came into the forward line, and he really was just standing there, and he just went for the jump. You could see Geelong players getting really anxious because he takes marks as nearly as easily as you dream of anyone taking them. He looks so threatening. If you've got Isaac there at the ground and you've got Nate jumping, I mean, we've got a really good recipe here, obviously, going forward for some really, really dynamic movement. And, obviously our greatest problem as an Essendon forward line is we really haven't been that threatening. Jake Stringer in the past was able to do that and make teams nervous, but that wasn't very regular. Looking at Nate Caddy and Kyle Langford, and I tell you what, even you mentioned him earlier, Jade Gresham in the last two quarters, he was really putting in a lot of effort around that half forward line. One of the commentators did make mention of the fact that maybe, as you mentioned as well, maybe he got a little bit of a kick up the arse when Isaac Kako rocked up and realised, geez, I might have to really work for my spot this year. But look, 3 goals. Nate Caddy, he's a perennial threat, and I even love his field kicking. Moving down towards the wing, he looks good. Another one of those performances last night that I was just smiling watching him play. It just made me think, okay, maybe we'll be okay.
Yeah, exactly. And he's had a proper preseason. He didn't get that last year, and he'll be fitter and stronger and ready to go. And it's just about having options with the forward line, because I don't think we are going to have a year. I don't think we'll have anyone kick 50 plus. I think it's more going to be a spread of guys. Kyle Langford's obviously one who could be quite up there, but depending on how things go with the 2 rucks or Peter Wright scenario, it's going to depend on who's going to be taking the number 1 forward. So there is pressure going to be on Nate Caddy that, look, for Essendon to have a good year, you're going to be kicking, you need to kick 25 goals plus, I think, at a minimum, if we're going to have a good year. Kako is probably a similar thing as well. If we're going to have a good year, these guys have probably got to contribute those sort of numbers. Archie Perkins is another one there who I think at times struggled with having a key defender on him. Probably is used to often playing against more of a halfback or a midfielder type player, but there were times where he had a Jack Henry or a Blitzarves going up against him, and just dealing with that much bigger body was a challenge for him. I liked the look of the forward line. I liked the look of the spread of it. It definitely seems a lot more mobile at the moment. As a whole, I think our pressure looked really good. You said earlier, and Kingo, who's on our show, went down last night. And he said, look, it did really seem like we were having a crack and really trying defensively, whereas Geelong might have just been a little bit like, okay, we can kind of slow it down a little bit here. But, I would rather see a team putting in that effort now than us be sitting here having this conversation and being like, oh, well, they didn't try very hard, but it's just a practice game. You know what I mean? And I think we've had those conversations in previous years where, these games haven't gone particularly well, and we've gone, oh, look, it's not the real thing. Doesn't matter, but you'd rather hit round 0, round 1, whatever you want to call it, opening round, in some sort of preseason form than not. So overall, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, and I think it was on the commentary last night, they did make mention of the fact that, Geelong, they're using this as just organising and making sure they restructure after a few retirements. But for a young team like Essendon, winning is important. I think it was even, I can't remember who might have said it. It might have been David King. He was saying, look, it's good to learn how to win. These guys need to learn how to win and make it almost infectious, So, look, 21-point win in a practice match. Yeah, we'll walk on and we'll be happy about it. But, these are things that I hope that they're able to look at and go, no, we can do it. And, no ground's a fortress. And hopefully just take a bit of confidence going forward. God knows enough guys put in a really good performance last night to make sure that they're, going up to the Gold Coast and feeling good about themselves.
Yeah, that 100%. Like, at 3/4 time, if at 3/4 time when it was, it was still very, very tight, 3/4 time we kind of took the foot off the gas, I still would have been okay with what I'd seen for 3/4, but it was nice to see us run out the game. Look, I don't think we can expect to kick 17 goals too every week. It was similar shades of last season where we just kicked so beautifully accurate. The Cats did get it down there in the area forward 50 a bit more, wasted some opportunities. We also defended well at times as well, but yeah, there was enough there for me to be happy with, but yeah, certainly not getting too overblown as much as I was joking about flags off the top. A couple other players I'd like to talk about, and look, I'll talk about him briefly. We chatted about him a lot in the last podcast, but Elijah Sardis had a very strong hit out, playing the guts, won a lot of footy. I'm fairly certain he had the most contested possessions and clearances for the game. Look, disposal let him down a bit, which I think we can sort of come to expect with him at this point. But he's just winning the ball. And at times he was going head-to-head with some pretty good Geelong midfielders. We know Tom Atkins is very good. We know Max Holmes is very good. Who's the other one? Jack Bowes is good. Cam Guthrie and Bailey Smith weren't running through there. But he looks good, man. He looks really good. And I think he's going to have a pretty good year of getting the ball. It's just about what he does with it. We really need to see him biting off, probably just getting simpler disposals right, I think. Whether it's just getting the hands to someone on the run or hitting a safe short target so we've got possession. Because there was certainly a few where he just kind of hacked it on the boot and it went straight to a Geelong player. And it's like, all right, well, I'm glad you're getting it and you're doing that part really well, but let's really focus on this other part now.
Yeah, look, I totally agree. And I'm probably going to echo a few of the points that you and Jesse made after the Bulldogs game last week. It's just nice to see him playing with more confidence. I think just his ability to find the ball has never been questioned. But he just feels like when he grabs it, he feels cleaner. Those nine clearances were really quite impressive. He just felt like every time it got to the centre, he was all over it. I think that he paired really well with a guy like Jai Caldwell, and I think obviously they trialled Ben Hobbs through there. I'm not entirely sure how much senior time Ben Hobbs will get this year, but it was nice to see that the consistency was that Elijah Sardis was in the middle. And with Merritt playing more off that half-back or half-forward now, it does really feel like the club has given him maybe a little bit of clearance to, get in there and this is your spot to have if you can make it. So, no, look, I think even just from 24 to preseason 25, it does feel to have been a marked difference between him, at least in his confidence and the way he's attacking the football. A bit like I said earlier with Kako, he just looked quite hungry. He definitely can be cleaner, and hopefully that hopefully the club can help clean that up. But I think only with more senior football will he get cleaner and get to be that player that I think we thought he was when he got the number 5.
Yeah, you spoke about Hobbsy there. I thought he tried his absolute arse off last night. He looked like a guy who was really playing for his spot in the team, because he's one who I'll say that I wasn't sure where his best footy was going to be played, if he was in the team or not. I wasn't entirely sure. Look, I think he'll play against the Suns, and look, he had some shocking clangers at times, but he was absolutely trying his guts out last night, trying to get involved in everything, won a lot of good footy. Yes, let himself down with disposal, quite like Sardis and a couple of other players. But it was probably the most I've seen him really crack in, I'd say, Ben Hobbs, because he's played those games at half forward where, I don't know if I'd say, I don't think he's been lazy, but almost just been a little bit too slow to sort of react to things. Often was just willing to take on a tackle when he probably shouldn't have, but he really seemed brutish at times in this game, busting through, winning the hard ball, sometimes getting a good hands-off for a good kick-off. Not all the time, unfortunately, but looked really good. Something interesting as well. So last season, we're talking about playing the centre bounce. So here's a little stat I've got for you, Ryan. So last season, Ben Hobbs attended 21 centre bounces throughout the entire year. Last night, he attended 24. So he had a real dip at that and a real big crack. But the other one that I found interesting is someone going into the midfield, and this person did not attend a single centre bounce in 2024, but Andrew McGrath was in the centre bounce a little bit, you might have seen. So he went there 7 times. I'm curious to know, was this just a let's spread the load type thing in a preseason match? Is this a Darcy Parish isn't in the team, so we need someone to fill a bit more minutes? is this someone like a Zach Merritt spending less time there because he was coming off the square a few times in the forward flank role? Even I think maybe potentially even at the back flank as well at times. I'm not 100% on that one, but it definitely was the forward flank. So interesting to see how this midfield dynamic was looking a bit different there, because there was times that I looked at the midfield and I'm like, God, I haven't seen Andy McGrath play there for feels like since Ben Rutten was the coach. Like, what's he doing there? So yeah, interesting to see that dynamic. And look, it could be totally different to what we see against the Gold Coast, but I feel like we've probably got a little sample size of what might be coming in the next few weeks.
Yeah, look, I definitely think that Brad Scott is a bit of an experimenter. He's, it's an annoying word for Essendon fans to hear, experimenting, because it kind of means that we have no idea what we're doing. And I think even, Mert expressed a little bit of frustration about play in one of our chats, players not being in the positions that they had been drafted for. But look, even I do honestly look at it, and the pessimist in me says a lot of these changes and these experiments are preparing for a year where we won't see Parish as consistently as we'd like. Even Andy McGrath going up, I think that's just what's our plan B, plan C, plan D if things go wrong, whether injury-wise or form-wise in the midfield. But I'm all for it at the moment. I definitely would like to see a little bit more consistency. I remember early last year, we were at our best when we had the same guys hitting the centre bounce. But look, this year does feel like I don't have a lot of expectations on 2025. So if this is the year to figure it out, then so be it. But yeah, Andy McGrath, I wouldn't expect to see him spending much time in the centre going forward. I'd expect to see Shield more, but then again, he's down back now too. So it's hard to know.
Yeah, Shield. I'll talk about Shield quickly before I raise another question for you. But yeah, look, I've liked what Dylan Shields brought so far in pre-season off the halfback flank. I think he's looked like someone who's really working to rebound hard. Still a few moments there where he kind of ran off without the ball, which we know Dylan Shield does sometimes. But yeah, I think he did okay. Look, probably like a Sardis and a Hobbs, butchered a few pretty bad pills at times. But look, worked really hard, looks fit and healthy. Looks like he's going to be starting the first game this season and probably playing a lot of footy there. And who knows, this could be himself getting more years on his playing future, because this is the last year of Dylan Shields' deal with Essendon. And look, if he has a solid year off the halfback flank, he may go around again.
Yeah, it's interesting to see him because, again, when he works well, he looks great. When his disposal's good, it looks great. I feel like I put him in a similar category to Hobbs, where I think they do really try really hard, but they probably are in my top 5 most frustrating players, because I think the thing about a guy like Sheila now in the position he's playing, you could get away with being a little bit careless with the ball and overrunning it and maybe not bending down enough. Halfback, he could become quite costly if those things become regular. So I'm not meaning to be negative or anything about him, but I do definitely have concerns about disposal of halfback, because, I mean, even last night, we could see that rebounding's still a killer for us, and making sure we execute off halfback successfully is really important. Seeing Zach Merritt last night playing off the halfback was like silk, and then seeing some of Dylan Shields was a little bit concerning.
Yes, it was. Speaking of, we were talking about midfielders before. Will Setterfield played a half of footy, came off the second half. I thought looked okay. Do you have Will Setterfield in your 22 for the first game, or 23 rather?
No. I used to be and look, I still am a big rap for him, but a couple of years ago when I think it was in his first year, he played the first 8 games and he just looked stellar. He just looked so exciting. But since that point with the injuries, I do think he's a stock standard depth player. I think he's great depth. I think he's a really good option to have. He's a mature body, particularly through 25, when I do believe the likes of Sardis or Hobbs, and they're going to get tired. They probably will need a spell here and there. As much as they're in their 4th years or whatever they are now, they still look very lean. They look small to a lot of extent. So Will Setterfield, I think, is a great option to have, but no, not in my first 22, 23.
Yeah. I think he's just a bit one-paced, unfortunately, is the thing that kind of lets him down, whereas you see some of those other guys have got a little bit more of a spring and a bit of a burst of speed, which he just doesn't have. I don't think he'll play against the Suns. That's my prediction. No. But look, could be wrong. Could be very wrong. Who's another player you'd like to talk about, Ryan?
Well, I'd like to talk about a position, if I could. I'd love to talk about the rucks. I think Sam Draper last night, I think, Blind Freddie knew he had a really good game. You and Jesse mentioned last week, and it was really evident last night how fit he looks. He does look leaner. I just felt that he's never looked stronger, really. I mean, he looks keen, and I mean, as it's nice to hear as well, during the broadcast that it looks, from all reports, he's going to be signing back on with the club, which is exciting. I'm sorry to all our South Australians, but yeah, he's staying in Victoria, it looks like. But yeah, look, I know he can be a real Jekyll and Hyde type of player, but God, if he can stay fit, I think the difference is going to be so much less. And compared up when Nick Bryan came on last night, I've always been a big rap for Nick Bryan, and I'm probably even more so than after last night, because he just looks like your quintessential ruckman. Not only is he tall, he's got a good build. He takes the marks at the highest point. He's got a really nice field kick, and in front of goals, he's very consistent. I think he slotted at least one last night. That was, yeah. I mean, it was a really funny moment as well, considering that Caddy went up for it and he seemed like a 5-foot guy when Brian came behind him and just marked it so comfortably. But he slotted it at about 35-40 very easily. I think he's my really reliable ruckman, and I think together they look really good. They look really exciting together. Having the resting in the forward line too. It does bring up the question though, and I think after last night and the manner in which the club's using him, I think Peter Wright better get used to VFL grounds, because I would personally be very agitated if the mix of Draper Bryan was altered for anything other than injury.
Yeah, it'll be the biggest shock ever if Peter Wright's playing against the Gold Coast. Considering he played the VFL game, played for a quarter and I think had one touch. So yeah, I'd be absolutely shocked if that's the case. I mean, look, if someone goes out of form, obviously they'll look to change it up. But yeah, Nick Bryan's he's just developing. Like, he's just a developing ruckman. I think he's only 23 now, which is still young for rucks. Like, they really don't start playing their best footy until it's mid to late 20s. But the question that I've spoken about, and I think a lot of Essendon supporters have, is that if this tandem is going to work, Nick Bryan has to lift his forward game. Not to say Draper doesn't as well, but Draper was definitely more established in the forward stakes than him. But look, it's a really nice looking combo, because Nick Bryan is your more traditional ruckman. He's very, very, for a ruckman, he's quite skillful, very clean, whereas Draper is just chaos. He's absolute chaos. You don't know what you're going to get from him. He'll pick it up and try and run past a few people, but also, can do the mercurial things at times. So, yeah, I'm really excited to see how that goes, and particularly against the Gold Coast. I'm assuming Jared Witts is fit, that we can go up there with a tandem to go after him, because he's a monster. He's arguably probably top 3 rucks in the comp, or at least has been the last couple of years, but doesn't get the plaudits because of who he plays for. But it'll be a really big challenge for them, that you're probably not going to win all the hitouts, and our midfield are probably going to be having to read off big Witsy. But all right, let's beat him around the ground. Let's work him. Let's get him up and back all day, and use the fact that we've got 2 guys who are pushing you. So yeah, I'm really happy with the way Nick Bryan is going, and some of the other and Draper as well. Some of the other guys I'd like to speak about are also quite tall. I thought Harry Jones just really quietly had a really good game last night. When I was looking through the numbers at the end of the game, I was like, holy, Harrison Jones had 27 touches. I don't think he's ever done that at senior level before, but really just floating well up and down the ground, getting involved, taking some really good marks, showing that, this big, tall, mobile winger is something that we can persist with, particularly with one of them. Look, I still don't think having 2, if Cox was fit and available, is a good thing, but it's a really nice point of difference, Harrison Jones playing in that position. And if he plays like he did last night in a lot of games throughout this year, he's going to have a very, very good year.
You're so right about Harrison Jones and how sort of quietly he put together a really, really good game last night. I think one of the things that really stands out for me about Harry Jones is not only is he a pretty good distributor of the ball. You know, he can take a good mark, and he can move at that 25 meters up the wing that you need. The thing that I really love about him is Essendon has had a generational issue about kicking out of the back line, kicking long to the wings. Having a guy of that height really gives us an opportunity to win those legitimately and take that mark we need to outside of the 50 and then make that next move. I think he's versatile. And one of the other things that I love, and we saw it last year a little bit, but he looks comfy. Yeah. You know, he just looks very sure in himself. He looks like he really believes that he belongs there now. And I do think that, you know, going forward, you mentioned form a little earlier. Say one guy in the forward line is just having a rough one. It's great to have the option about moving a guy like Harry Jones into the forward line as a bit of a wild card. Again, one of those guys that I probably didn't have in my first 22 2 years ago, you know, and then last year it was a bit of a surprise, and now he just feels like he's a lock, you know. He'd be one of the first 5 guys I think you'd have locked in.
Yeah, after a game like that, he definitely would earn a position like that. Another big guy I'd like to speak about, and look, he didn't set the world alight, but the most important thing is that he played 4 quarters of football, and I don't think he got hurt at any point, and that was Zach Reid, who looks a lot more mature than the skin and bones that we first saw when he first got out there for Essendon. But look, he got beaten a couple of times, but he was also very sure of himself, laid some really strong tackles, some good intercepts, good spoils. And, you know, this was really the first time for more than a quarter, because I think it was the Geelong fixture last year that we actually had Ridley, Mackay and Reid, and it lasted all of 1 quarter. But we saw a full game of what the 3 of them can do. And look, if Ben Mackay wakes up and stops like jumping at shadows and, you know, actually marks the ball, it could be a really good 3 key defenders that we can be rolling with for the future here. And look, Lewis Hayes also, I thought, did some good stuff. But yeah, great seeing Reedy get through a full game of footy without, being stretched off.
I think the number one person that is excited to see Zach Reid on the field would be Jordan Ridley. He gives Jordan Ridley the ability to be that sort of floating defender that we've always, you know, at his best, he's that floating defender that can come and do that intercept. I think the best thing about Zach Reid was last night that I didn't really notice him that much, which meant that he probably kept, you know, his opposition relatively quiet. He did get beaten, as you said, but I can't admit, when I was watching the game, when I started watching, I was a little bit startled to see him there. It took me a moment to go, Zach Reid. Oh yeah, shit, yeah, I remember him. But he looks strong. He looks very tanned, which we love at the start of the season. We love that. We love it. Jai Caldwell, fantastic tan as always. I think that is the 3 you want. You want to see Mackay, Ridley, Reid, and I think, you know, touch wood, you know, pray to whoever you can that he can get through a season. I just can't fathom what kind of player he can be for us. He like much of last night, he just fills me with a cautious excitement.
Yeah, he's the Harris Andrews type of defender, where he's just, you know, big, long, lean and reaching, can take a nice mark, but also is quite skillful. And that was always the reason he was touted so highly. And, you know, all those years ago when we did draft him and Coxie and Perko, that the joke was that he is the best of the lot. He was the best of the 3 of them, but we just haven't seen him. So, look, all I want to see from him is just consistent footy this year. I just want to see him get out there and string together, you know, 15, 20 game season. Look, if he has some bad games, so be it. It's just about him having a really good year. Is there anyone else you want to talk about? I've got a couple of bads, but, you know, they're pretty minor. Is there anyone else you want to flag, Ryan?
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think the only ones I'm left to flag probably are the ones that are pretty obvious to most people. Sam Durham just proved that he's just a gun. Yep. And I think this year he could be more damaging than ever. Zach Merritt just proved once again he's still going to win the Crichton, because every time we need someone to step up, he just rocks up. He's just there. He looks tall when we need him to look tall. He looks small when we need him to look small. He's fast. He's clean. I think Jai Caldwell was, you know, just clean as well. Nick Martin, I think, you know, you look at him around the forward line. I think obviously they feel like the club's not going to have him down the halfback line as much in 2025. And I think last night proved it.
Which we love.
And I think that last night, if it proved again the lesson that we already know, he is so damaging and so dangerous near the goals. He's that real ace up the sleeve. Maybe, yeah. Even Archie Roberts played okay. I love the hunger of him. I thought he played pretty well too. But yeah, those are pretty much the only ones I could probably point at. But yeah, all the guys that we've now come accustomed to standing up and being good remain good, and I guess that's one of the best positives I can take out of the game.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think there's anything too shocking. Look, if Xavier Dersma was kicking for my life, I'd be long dead. That's probably the only real knock I had. I know. Look, Mackay had some pretty frustrating moments, but yeah, like all in all, it was a hit out where all you want to see from a practice game is you want to see a bit of a system. You want to see people working hard. You want to see some people in form, and obviously getting through unscathed. And we ticked all of those boxes. Look, it was great to get the win, but the score obviously doesn't matter. But, there were promising signs from young kids, some guys returning to footy who did what they had to do, a few guys in new positions who looked okay. Like, there weren't any alarm bells to me, whereas in previous years we've come through these games and there has been the odd alarm bell, whereas I would say the list of bads is a lot shorter than it has been in these games in the last season. And yeah, I'm really excited for round 0. I'm ready to be let down again. I've spent all summer recovering. My emotions are back together again. I'm feeling normal. I'm ready to yell at the television, I think. Next Saturday, so it's Saturday week, sorry. Saturday week, Ryan, you can lock me in for yelling at my TV.
Well, look, I'll probably be there with you because I'm one of those weird people that I'm more emotionally stable at the ground. I find the television just does something to me that brings out a really, really unpleasant human being. But I think, yeah, like out of last night, I'm just excited to see footy again. I literally had my KO subscription cancelled until 6:30 yesterday, simply because I was just, after last year, I just needed a break from sport. I needed to get a little bit zen, and now I'm ready to feel unsettled, queasy in the stomach, those 3 runs to the toilet before the game. I'm ready to be back there. I'm ready to be mentally broken again, but I do remain hopeful.
Yes.
And I do have a blog coming out next week. The word hope comes up a lot. But no, look, it was a good run out. If I have one negative, I would probably say overpossessing, but other than that, that's probably it for now. I don't want to be too negative so far.
Yeah, there was a bit of that. Like, we're obviously really trying to avoid the long kick down the line, which we were forced to do at times, but we were really pushing to either spread it wide through kicks or try and get the hands and move it through the middle. And it looked okay. It looked like they had a bit of endeavour, which is nice, because we've certainly had previous seasons where we would, the old Ben Rutten side to side. When was it the John Worsfold switch? They're all the same. It was the John Worsfold switch. Let one side. All right, long down the line. But it looked like they were trying to bite off a little bit more in this game, which is good. You speak at KO Sports there, Ryan, but I've actually heard rumours that as part of this new deal, now that Murdoch sold off part of Fox, is it's actually getting rebranded to Kako Sports from now on. So it's just going to be Isaac Kako Sports. You'll see him, driving Formula 1 cars. You'll see him in the NRL. You'll see him in all these different things because, there's not much the kid can't do. Let's be honest.
I got to say this, and I'm probably late to the game, but since we've lost the package, do we now have the cackage?
The cackage. The cackage. That's good. My name in the Discord had to change from Paco to Kako because obviously with him leaving, I had to change it. So I was like, all right, well, guess I'm going to be Kako now. And I did really enjoy. You could, if for those who are in the Discord and premium listeners, you'll see in Daily Don's thread yesterday, 9:48 p.m. Me, as Kako said, just wrote "Get around me." So you can see that I was enjoying it, having a couple of beers. It was weird drinking beers on the couch on a Tuesday night. I was like, I don't normally do this, but the footy's on, so I'm gonna have a couple of beers. Yeah, look, all in all, Ryan, I reckon we'll look to wrap up the show. But it's nice to hit the start of the season feeling good, not feeling too doomsday about things. At least until Mert gets on the pod next week and just brings us all back down again.
Well, I'm pretty excited. I've got my very first pod with Mert. First time I've ever done a pod with him. The Gold Coast Suns review, which could be striking.
Could be striking. It could be striking. Yeah, I might need you to help me bring a bit of balance to the show, depending on what Mert's got in store for us. But listeners, we're here. The real thing. It all starts next week, and like I said off the top of the show, there is going to be 5 pods in 5 days, starting on Sunday night, running all the way through to Thursday night. So you've got your absolute footy fix to lead into our opening game against the Gold Coast Suns. After that, we'll have the weekly mailbag we'll be starting. We're going to have opposition previews most weeks, I think. Ideally every single week. A few of the boys are getting involved with that. So Jesse's got Gold Coast. I think James is going to do the Hawthorn preview, the guy from a Hawthorn channel. And then, of course, the regular reviews, the preview shows. Might try and do, the odd live here or there if I get the time and energy. But look, year's coming. Very exciting. Lots of stuff we're planning to do here on the show. And hopefully it's a good year for the Dons, Ryan.
Let's hope we're saying go Plains a fair bit this year, but come on, let's go Bombers. Come on.
Well said. Go Dons.